Okay. All right. Let's do this. Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Tonight is our Tuesday night live program, and immediately after this, we'll be going to our Patreon live. So if you haven't already become a Patreon member, now is the time to do so. So today we put up our daily video, and we talked about Crystal Lee Kenny. She was the girlfriend to Patrick Frazee, who was ultimately convicted regarding the death of Kelsey Barrett. She disappeared on Thanksgiving, last year. I mean, almost 2 years ago now, right? Anyway, gosh, it goes by so fast sometimes, doesn't it? Anyway, she was up for parole. Now, she was sentenced shortly after Patrick Frazee was sentenced. She had a Class 6 felony, an accessory to a crime. I'm telling you, that was the deal of the century. Her attorneys did a great job for her. And it's something you can kind of learn from what took place in the Crystal Lee Kenny matter as to what you have to do sometimes when your client is in a tight spot. The first thing you got to do is, well, what sort of mitigation do we have? All right. You know, you got mitigation, which is, well, yeah, maybe I was involved, but my degree of involvement was much lower. Or it could be anything. Hey, I'm a nurse. I help people. I would never harm anyone, etc. Mitigation. Anything can be mitigation. Then you have a defense. All right. And then what a lot of people don't consider when they have a case is leverage. All right. And in this particular case, the prosecutors, needed Crystal Lee Kenny's testimony. Could they have made a case? Yeah, I don't think so, without Crystal Lee Kenny. And I think the prosecutors knew that. And at the end of the case, they agreed that they had to make a deal with the devil being Crystal Lee Kenny, to be able to walk them through the process, to say that over there, the bad man, Patrick Frazee, he's the bad man that killed Kelsey Barrett. Okay. They needed somebody to come in and do that because the forensic evidence was lacking. And frankly, without her coming in and, getting kind of limited immunity based upon her plea, the defense, I think, would have had a much better shot to say she was the alternate suspect. Now, I will tell you, I did not sit and watch all of the trial, but I watched it very closely. And I was very surprised at how the defense in that case treated Crystal Lee Kenny. I would have gone after her hard. So let me understand this. You said you were going to go kill Kelsey Barrett on 3 occasions and you chickened out, but then you just happened to drive from Idaho back to Colorado, like some 12 hours to help clean up. Wow, isn't that convenient? I would have been accusing her all day long of being the one that did it, and the one who really only helped dispose of the body would have been, Patrick Frazee. Now, what crushed Patrick Frazee in his particular case was the fact that he had been writing letters to a jailhouse snitch to go knock off Crystal Lee Kenny. Now, how does that not show consciousness of guilt? Of course it did. And obviously the jury, found that she was credible, at least credible enough that they believed her story of the particular events. Now, like I said, she got a smoking good deal. She got a 3-year sentence for basically her involvement in the death of Kelsey Barrett. She came up for parole, right? I mean, She got a 3-year sentence. She had almost no pre-sentence confinement credit that was going to be given to her. I think she had a day or two at the most. So literally a year from the time she's sentenced, a third into the sentence, she was eligible for parole, and it was denied. Now, the prosecutor in that particular case can certainly write to the parole board and say, hey, we did what we had to do, but she needs to serve as much of that sentence as possible. She'll be up for parole again this time next year. We'll see if she gets out. I mean, 3 years. I mean, as a defense attorney, and I know her defense attorneys, they did a great job for her. As a member of the community, I'm a little shocked and outraged by the lenient sentence in there. All right. For those of you who do not know me, or maybe this is your first time here, my name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. We talk about cases in the news. This channel kind of really started way back in the Chris Watts days, because I was so frustrated by what I would see in the evening news, where people would talk about the people being the news reporters and not knowing the difference between an arraignment and a preliminary hearing and a motions hearing, and frankly just screwing it up. So we started this channel, and now we are some 160,000 subscribers strong. We do our Tuesday night live for about an hour, give or take, depending on the interaction of the viewers. And although there's a couple subjects I would like to talk about tonight, for the most part, we answer your questions. And we do the same thing on our Patreon live as well, except obviously there's fewer people there because, well, only I think we have about 150 Patreons, and people can sign up at various levels. But what we do there is we do a couple of fun things. One, we give out a phone number where people can call in and we can chat live about any subject that our Patreon members want to talk about. And then we also, kind of come up with a group question of the week, and we ask the magic 8 ball. I think you can see the magic 8 ball right there. And, so far the magic 8 ball is batting 1,000, never been wrong. We do try to take questions that come through this evening. And Torben, who has given a super chat, and although we certainly don't ask for, we certainly do appreciate super chats, and it certainly helps highlight those as they come through. Tobin says, it's because of Scott that I can only drink Red Bull out of a mug now. I'm happy I learned this sophisticated method of morning caffeination. Well, Torben, congratulations. I personally am a 2 to 3 can Red Bull in the morning, and if I have my trusty Crime Talk mug, tonight we have it just filled with water, but I will pour my Red Bull into the mug. I'm telling you, Red Bull is the drink of champions first thing in the morning, particularly if you don't drink coffee like me. I just never acquired a taste for coffee. Somebody had a box of chocolates the other day, and I took it, and it had the taste of coffee in it, and I literally had to throw it out. I just, not a coffee drinker, can't do it. So let's go through and see if we have a couple of questions, and then I would also like to talk about the Chad Daybell matter. The court published an order regarding scheduling, but I want to talk about what's going to be discussed there. So we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Obviously, if you have questions about Crystal Lee Kenny or anything, we'll try to answer them because, well, this is your show. Yes, I'm here. I'm your host. Hopefully, I can answer legal questions regarding, criminal cases that are going on in the world or old cases as well, and try to explain the legal procedure and also give you the perspective of what the prosecutor would be thinking and what the defense attorney would be thinking about as well. If I didn't mention it, I've been a practicing criminal defense attorney for 25 years, rapidly approaching 26 here real soon. And so we've handled just about every kind of case out there. And so when I speak to you about it, it is usually, I'm speaking from experience. I'm telling you, I've done lots of homicide cases, murders, attempted murders, and not to toot my own horn, but I can say that Most criminal defense attorneys can go their entire career and never get not guilties on a first-degree murder case. And I'm not talking about lesser includeds. I'm talking about walk your client out of the courtroom on first-degree murder cases. That's right. I've got 7 of those. So most people don't go their entire career and get 1. I've got 7. Anyway, let's see what the questions are. Colleen, I am a nurse. Red Bull is not heart healthy. Scott, I understand. I am taking a calculated risk, and I know that for every can of Red Bull that I drink, I need to flush it with about 3 gallons of water. I get that. Stacy, she's a coffee drinker here, 2 pots. Oh my goodness. And tell me that's healthy for everyone's heart. Not so sure about that. Let me know, Colleen. I can't get through my day without my coffee. Yeah, I just can't do the taste. I'm just not the coffee taster, so to speak. Let's see. Where can we leave case suggestions? Can you please do a video on the Christina Kupka disappearance, possible murder case? I think that's the new one right out of Houston, right? The YouTuber. Was that the right one? That they found her on the side of the road, deceased? What's her name again? Christine Kupka, Kupka. We'll see what we can do. You can always send messages. We do read the messages. We try to go through, try to comment on as many as we can. Unfortunately, there's just not enough hours in the day. We've got 2 years of videos, and sometimes people are leaving comments on videos from 2 years ago. We try to go through them. We can. Sometimes, I get notifications every time somebody leaves a comment on my phone. I don't know if y'all can see that there, but so if something pops up, I do it. If there's something breaking in the news, like New York Times, there's always something there. And sometimes I'm busy. I can't take a look at it that very moment. Sometimes I see a comment come up and I try to reply right there and then. Question here from Donna. If the district attorney and Kelsey's parents go to the parole board, does their opinion weigh in at the parole hearings? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. Okay. The parole board is appointed by the governor. And these usually parole hearings, depending on the makeup, it's 1 to 3 people. Recommendations are made, but by really what it comes down to is parole officers basically say, hey, am I willing to put my name on this person to be released? Now, at a certain point, let's face it, if you are serving a determinate sentence, in this case, Kelsey Barris has a 3-year sentence, she'll have a mandatory parole date, which will be pretty much near the 3 years if she doesn't get out. Now, she pled guilty to a Class 6 felony, so she only has a 1-year period of parole. And a period of parole is in a period of supervision in addition to any sentence in the Department of Corrections. Now, if Ms. Kenny were to violate her parole, usually by picking up a new offense, pretty unlikely. But if she were to do something that would violate her parole, usually it's new law violations, technical violations, starts using drugs or something along those lines, usually anything more serious than a 6-point traffic offense, she could then go back to prison to serve out the remainder of her time on parole in the Department of Corrections. It usually depends on the nature of the violation, if any. Hopefully, she can get through the parole. She has a couple of young children. It's tragedy. I mean, it's tragic. There's nothing good about that case whatsoever, but it just shows you how people will always react in situations regarding lovers. She was willing to, for lack of a better term, contemplate going to kill somebody to be with Patrick Frazee. And I say she is, Crystal Lee Kenny. Then she came back by her own testimony to help clean up the house and all the blood and all the mess, and then to help dispose of the bodies by burning the body and then burning the remains. Like I said, only 3 years for that? Man, I mean, my client, they would have to they would have to take an offer like that. That would be a no-brainer. So even if she's away from her family for 2 to 3 years, that's a gift, because she should probably be in prison at least for an accessory to first-degree murder, which she should be getting a lot more time. But she didn't, because that's sometimes district attorneys have to do that. They have to make a deal with the devil sometimes to make the case, to get the bad guy. So yes, the family, the DAs do make a difference to the parole board. Let's give Scott a thumbs up. Let's like it. Let's subscribe. Let's share the page. Let's share our channel. Let everybody know if they have questions regarding true crime, that this is the place to go. We try to give you the facts. We try to give you the law, and that's bottom line. That's the way it is. Let's see here. It says Alexis Sharkey is the woman found dead in Texas. Not much information on that one yet. Okay. Well, we'll look it up. We'll see what we can find. I mean, there's so many cases going on out there in the world. And I've always said that if people actually knew how much crime was actually going on in the world, they literally would not leave their homes and come out. It's actually kind of scary. And crime's actually, at least it seems like it. It's a lot. Well, there's a lot less prosecution of it right now. But, depending on if you look at the statistics, crimes are going up. Violent crimes are going up in some of the major cities around the United States, probably because everybody's all cooped up, and people are just, their emotions are getting the best of them, which clearly is not a good thing. Got to control those emotions, ladies and gentlemen. Have to control those impulses, because it leads to trouble, and you have to ask yourself, is this really worth going to prison for? Okay, Justice stating the Christine Kupka is from 1998, and all along there's only been one suspect. I will have to look that up. We try to keep up on cases, but we obviously can't keep up on all of them. Maybe if we had more Patreon members, we could hire a full-time researcher. That would be fabulous, because I can't do it all. Frank can't do it all because he's busy as well. Jane Maxwell, this is in regards to a question, basically, why do you like true crime? Jane, it says, hi, I finally realized that the roots of my interest in true crime date back to the 50s when Perry Mason was aired weekly. No talking during the show. Now, Perry Mason, great show. One of the first shows regarding, defense attorney. There's been so many legal shows out there, but, clearly Perry Mason was one of the first and probably the best. And I think it inspired a lot of people like Jane to have an interest in true crime and the law. And, it's certainly interesting to see what inspires people. I think it's always interesting because everybody has a story, and it's always interesting to talk to people as to what their story is about. Now, that was in regards to a question that we had the other day on one of our daily shows. I asked people, what made you interested in true crime? And we picked, I think, was it 6 winners, Frank? And 6 winners are going to be sent Crime Talk mugs. I believe we've got addresses, right? Or you're in the process of doing that?
I haven't. I just received one.
Okay. Well, we announced the winners the other night. Went through. Was it last Tuesday night we went through?
Yes, that's correct.
It was our last Tuesday night show. We announced it. So if you didn't catch it, but you listed a response in there, you may want to go check last week's live video. And if your name was mentioned, we've got them. We'll reach out to you. But we've only received one response as of right now. We had the big stack of mugs, and now the big stack of mugs is stacked up in Frank's office. And if nobody claims them, he'll probably be giving them out as stocking stuffers to all his family, because who doesn't want Crime Talk merchandise, right? I do. I'm going to give it all away. People are going to be surprised. They're going to be so tired of Crime Talk merchandise this Christmas, they're not going to know what to do with themselves. Let's see here. Johnny Peace. How do I get the attention of a cold case police? I've tried and tried. My birth mother gave me specific information of an area she remembers as a child and is a place where many bodies were buried. Well, Johnny, I mean, obviously the police have limited resources and they cannot go on, no disrespect, but a wild goose chase unless you kind of have an X marks the spot. Now, certainly you could go out there and try to dig up and say, oh, look what we found. And guess what? Then you call the police. That's going to get them interested for sure. Now, obviously, if you find a police officer in that jurisdiction that maybe is interested, maybe that's their job is cold cases, maybe they'll be interested. But, you know, like I said, they have limited time, limited resources, so they can't go on a lot of wild goose chases. They need hard, cold information, reliable information. Let's see here. Another question. Jenny Bear. A friend of mine was charged and tried for first-degree murder. The jury deadlocked and they rescheduled trial for February. How many times can they do this? Well, Jenny, I wish your friend good luck. Hopefully things go well for him or her. But the reality of it is when a mistrial is declared, the prosecutor will obviously try again. I do not like mistrials, okay? Because the defense only has one shot with their defense. And if there is a mistrial, and you always like to try to find out exactly what was the vote. Was it 11-1 for guilty, 11-1 for innocent or not guilty, or was it 6-6 or 7-5? Either way, those are the kinds of things. If you can talk to the jury in that area, that'll give you an idea of probably the odds on the second case around. I can tell you, I had a case once where we tried it 3 times, mistrial every time. The jury just wasn't convinced, and then my client disappeared, so we didn't get to do it. But his co-defendants were all convicted on jury trial number 4. The problem with a mistrial for the defense is, like I said, you get one shot at that defense, and usually that's your surprise. That's what you've got. And if that helped raise some doubt as to people, guess who's going to fix their case the second time through? That's right, the prosecution. A mistrial is really a dry run for the prosecutor. No harm, no foul. They get to basically do their case all over again. Their case is what it is. What happened next? What did you see? Now they have an opportunity to fix the points that the defense was raising. You'll also be able to get a transcript. So those people are now locked into their statements. And if they change them, you can impeach them based upon any prior inconsistent statements. But in theory, the prosecution can keep retrying somebody over and over and over and over again. And I can't remember the case, but it was out of Mississippi, where the man was tried for murder. It was mistried. And if there were convictions and it went up on appeal, I think all the way to the Supreme Court, and they said, the prosecutor was engaging in some nefarious conduct by trying to get rid of the black jurors on the jury panel. And anyway, that case, they finally decided to dismiss it. But that would have been, I think, jury trial 6 or 7. So hopefully your friend's case, Jenny, doesn't go that far. But it's a they can keep going and going and going. So a lot of it also can depend on what was the basis for. If the jury was just deadlock, no prosecutorial misconduct. Now, most cases where someone has said something that resulted in a mistrial, my experience is it's usually the police officers who get up there because they always want to get that one little dig in. Just get it in. But that dig usually involves something that is completely impermissible under the rules of evidence. And the court then has, the ability to declare a mistrial, and they should. And of course, you argue that, Judge, manifest necessity. mistrial should be granted, charges dismissed. It was a deliberate act. The police officer knew better. He was admonished by the court. He was admonished by the prosecutor not to do that, and he said it anyway. And the judge will just say, well, I'm not happy, but I'm not going to dismiss the case. I can't recall, at least me, for personal experience, if that's ever happened. But the reality of it is that they can keep going and going and going. So I hope that answers the question there, Jenny Bear. Justice, that's awesome. I wish I won a mug. We picked 6 people. That's why you always have to watch. You never know when we may do a contest and give away some Crime Talk merchandise. We like to do that, and particularly, I didn't realize how many mugs we had sitting in the back room. I mean, I'm not going to drink out all of them, so I might as well give them away. Let's see here. Subway Switch. My reason would have never won a mug. Well, I don't know, Subway. Let me know what we're talking about. Amy, what was our topic? Well, first we talked about Crystal Lee Kenny being denied parole. We kind of recapped the Patrick Frazee matter. And the other matter that I want to talk about tonight is the Chad Daybell matter. Now, the court yesterday, late afternoon, issued an order setting a hearing date on the motion to dismiss that was filed by Chad Daybell's attorney, as well as the motion to change venue. So as I was preparing for this evening, this hearing was originally scheduled for November 24th, which was obviously last week, and basically nobody wanted to do the hearing. So both the prosecution and defense said, hey, Judge, let's stipulate. So the judge said, fine, we'll have this new hearing July 6, 2021, 9 a.m. 2 things on the docket there: motion to dismiss, motion for change of venue. So let's talk about a motion to dismiss. Now, I can tell you, I would not have to work ever again if I was given $1 for every time a client asked me to file, I need a motion to dismiss for lack of evidence. Okay? And I said, well, there is evidence, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. It's called an affidavit for the arrest warrant. We can go to a preliminary hearing and the judge will say that there's sufficient evidence to go forward, to establish probable cause. It's a much lower standard than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, for sure. And so I went back and looked at Mr. Pryor's motion regarding his motion to dismiss. And frankly, this looks like a motion that could have been written by somebody in custody. Grounds for the motion. Said motion is based upon the lack of sufficient evidence to continue to bind defendant over upon all 4 charges as presented to the court at the preliminary hearing on August 3rd and 4th of 2020. He goes on and says that further, the charges are not supported by the evidence and duplicative as allegations against the defendant. Further, the prosecution has yet to present evidence to support when the alleged acts is supposedly to have taken place and if the defendant acted in a manner to support those allegations. The prosecution has made assertions in his complaint and information that are vague and overly broad. This is a general, generic, throw in the kitchen sink motion to dismiss. The judge, unless there is some new filing, which there has been no filing of any supplemental authority, no motion citing to portions in the transcript which would say that there is no evidence presented regarding Chad Daybell's involvement regarding JJ and Ty Lee in any way whatsoever. Now understand, there was a 2-day preliminary hearing for Chad Daybell. And apparently it was so compelling that Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell's now wife, her attorney, Mr. Means, said, we waive our preliminary hearing because we think there's sufficient evidence that would be enough to bind the case over to the district court, which is what took place. And the legal standard, ladies and gentlemen, for the preliminary hearing is rather straightforward. And that standard continues throughout the case. The judge always has to view the evidence in the light most favorable to the prosecution, drawing all inferences in favor of the prosecution. Okay? Evidence has been presented that supports the allegations in the complaint and information against Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. I would fall out of my chair and hit my head if the judge in this particular case, Judge Boyce, granted a motion to dismiss in this particular case. Now, one of the references in the motion was that the charges are duplicative, duplicious, basically charging the same conduct multiple times. And when you go back and you look at the charging documents, and you have to go all the way back to the amended charging documents, and if you look at the charges, let's see here. Probable cause. I'm pulling up here the motion to amend the criminal complaint. That's not it, but they can amend, they being the government can amend the charges, I mean, literally almost up to the time until the case goes to trial. So remember the criminal complaint, count 1, destruction, alteration, concealment of evidence. That was regarding count 1 is the defendant Chad Daybell between 22nd day of December 2019 and the 9th day of June 2020 in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, did willfully conceal and or aid and abet another to willfully conceal human remains, were to be produced, used, or discovered in evidence, right? So that's destruction of that. They give the date. They give the defendant. It's a pleading notice type of state. That is sufficient. And I get it. I've been in a defense hearing when they give you this big date range between September 2019 and June 9th. Okay, the appropriate motion there is a bill of particulars saying, Judge, I just have no idea, can't figure this out, when exactly this took place. Please make the prosecution tell me when it happened. Same thing. So count 1, and then they have count 2, destruction, alteration, or concealment. That was the original complaint. And then they wanted to amend the complaint. Let's see if I can pull this up really quickly here, where they added some charges basically to be a little more specific here, because they're probably learning more information. Obviously, when the motion comes out, when the order comes out, when the affidavit comes out and they make the arrest, they have to move relatively quickly, to keep people in custody to do what they need to do. And why can't I find the amended complaint? Anyway, it added, multiple counts for the conspiracy and then the concealment related to that. Basically, Chad Daybell's attorney, Mr. Pryor, saying, hey, you're just adding more charges here, and that's mean, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that. If there's any issues, the jury can certainly decide it, and the judge can decide at a later time if Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow are convicted of both of those, would they merge for sentencing purposes? Yes, separate counts, but the same evidence is being presented to support those counts. So would it be a merger? So that's where we stand on this. Let's see here. Let me ask a couple of questions. Soldier photo is Chesty Puller. That's right. One of the greatest Marines ever to serve. Chesty Puller. Let's see here. Wait, he's not monetized? What the heck? Yeah, we'll talk to YouTube about that. Yeah, they demonetized. our video before it even went up this morning or this afternoon. They demonetized the video. Then by tomorrow morning, it'll probably be monetized. But of course, I miss all the good bangs, so to speak. And then even tonight, we set up the live. YouTube demonetized it before we even came on air. Complete censorship. Because, when you talk about life in the criminal justice system, you may mention the word death, homicide. Guess what? Those are sensitive subject matters to YouTube. It could be offensive to someone and therefore not appropriate for all advertisers. There you go. Marilee K, how are you feeling? I am feeling 100% better. Thank you for asking. Yeah, that was not a fun time, but we're through it. I wasn't going to let some little virus get the best of me. I mean, it was holding me down pretty good there for a while, but we're back. Let's see here. Let's see. Tracy, those children's bodies were decomposing on his property while they are living up in Hawaii, getting married, and putting as having no children on a rental application. Evil. Those are certainly facts that are going to come out for sure. I mean, it really looks bad for Lori Vallow. I mean, the mother of these two missing children. And you would think, like any mother who's, throughout nature, what do mothers do? They protect their young. And she failed miserably at it. And Chad Daybell, what is he just supposed to say? Oh, the kids disappeared, not really sure what happened to him. I had no idea. I'm just hanging out with this woman, getting married to her, 2 weeks after my wife had a mysterious death. And, oh, by the way, Lori Vallow's had a couple of people die around her as well. Anything I should think is suspicious about that? Chad Daybell's going to say, nope, no idea. It's just, it all just kind of worked out. It was God's will. Mark my words. You would think, okay? We do our Crime Talk search, the background subscription service. And when you do this search, they ask, are there people that are associated with this particular person? Just think if Chad Daybell had gone to CrimeTalkSearch.com, signed up for that, and the questions as you go through, like, is this person related to this person? And he could have looked at it and figured out, oh my gosh, all these people are dead. Her previous husbands are dead. Like, am I next? I mean, I've jokingly said that, the safest place for Chad Daybell right now is in the jail out there. I think it's in Fremont County, so that Lori Vallow can't get near him. I mean, bottom line, let's face it. So it just shows you. I mean, if you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service, I think most people are very surprised as to what they find when that search comes out. And when you do that search, it's done anonymously, which means nobody knows you're doing it. And a report is going to be generated. And it's interesting, when you do the search, it asks you, do you know if they're related to this person? Yes or no? Because it's searching all these databases and they're trying to pull up all these inner relationships that are going on to make sure that they have the right person that they're providing information on. And that report is generated. I mean, it tells you everything you could possibly ever want to know about somebody. Criminal history, property records, divorce records, marital records, where they lived, how many car loans they've had, what is owed. I mean, these are the kinds of things you want to know if you're going to get involved with somebody. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up. I think you'll be happy that you did. We've had so many people say, oh my gosh, you saved me from getting involved with a guy that had issues regarding charges regarding harms to minors. We've had people send us testimonials saying, I was going to go into business with somebody and found out they had a bunch of fraud convictions. I'm telling you, that small fee, even if it's one time or whether you keep it for a monthly basis so you can search whomever comes into your life or maybe your kid's life, it's worth it. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Soon arrest when they are not U.S. citizens. Let's see here. My daughter's father tested positive yesterday. First symptoms was loss of smell. then loss of taste a few hours later. Alyssa, well, I wish your daughter's father well. Some people get minor symptoms. Some people are asymptomatic, meaning no symptoms at all. Other people can get one where it knocks them on their ass pretty darn hard. This guy. And then the other people sometimes have no issues at all. So, you just got to be smart about it. And, hopefully I wish them well. Mar K, it makes me sick how Lori is talking about the love of Jesus and planning her children's demise at the same time. I think she used her religion as an excuse to do what she did. Well, we're ultimately going to find out here at a trial. I think we're set in June for that one. I can pull that up really fast just to confirm that so I don't misspeak, because if I misspeak, I will get multiple comments correcting me, which is good. We like that. We want to make sure we get it as accurate as possible. The joint trial, pretrial conference on June 2nd. Trial will commence July 12th for Chad and Lori, and is scheduled to go through August 6th, which is basically 3 weeks. So July 12th. Then we got our motions hearing on the motion to dismiss, as well as the motion for change of venue. Now, the change of venue, this may have some merit. However, the motion that was filed on behalf of Chad Daybell is somewhat lacking. It's a very generic motion that says, hey, we're bringing this pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rules 21, and is based upon the 6th and 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 7 of the Idaho Constitution. And it says it shall be supported by papers and pleadings, in this case, the memorandum of law to be filed, which we've still not seen as of yet. But they're basically here, Judge, we want to change the venue. Tell me when I should file my briefs. Nothing's been filed to date. Now that we have a date, something needs to be filed. It's public information. We should get an opportunity to see why Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, via their attorneys, think that they cannot get a fair trial in the jurisdiction where it currently resides. Is it just because people are aware of the case? Perhaps, but that doesn't mean you cannot get a fair trial. Most motions for change of venue are granted after jury selection, or I guess I should say after the lack of being unable to successfully complete jury selection. The judge basically says we're not going to find enough people. I can tell you on a double homicide regarding 2 deceased children, we were granted a change of venue. The judge kept it in her own judicial district because there were multiple counties, so we moved it to a different county. But we brought in some crazy number. I mean, it was close to 1,000 jurors, I do believe, that filled out questionnaires, and we didn't need them all. Most people hadn't heard anything about the case, even though this is what we do, this is what we follow. There's lots of people out there that just don't care, don't read the news, even if they heard something about it, may not have paid much attention to it. So you just never, ever know. And it's premature for the court just to do it. Yes, it's a case that's got a lot of national publicity, but as a general rule, you're tried where the crime was committed. Bottom line. And we'll have to see what's going on there. Let's see. Kimberly, cracking up over here. You are too much, Scott. Chad, with his lack of crime talk background checks, wouldn't have been able to marry that woman against allegedly did their multiple lives. I'm telling you, think about it. I mean, if Chad Daybell had come to me and said, hey, I met this woman. Sure, a couple of her kids are missing. And yeah, maybe I was kind of around when her brother was around, and next thing you know, the kids were dead or missing. But, I really like her. And coincidentally, my wife just passed away of, what was it, 20 years, I think, 20 plus years that they had been married, Tammy and Chad Daybell. But, I'm thinking about marrying her because, It's been 2 weeks now. I'm pretty much over my deceased wife. Scott, do you got any good advice for me? My advice would have been run like a hotel fire. Get out of that relationship, all right? And said, hey, let's do a background search on her. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, you knew that her previous husbands had wound up dead and your wife just happened to wind up dead? Wow. I mean, maybe it's just, bad things rolling threes, I guess. But geez, it seems like a lot of coincidences there, Chad. So if he had come to me for my advice, we probably would have asked those questions that, is kind of the elephant in the room. So really, you want to date a woman who's had such bad luck? I mean, maybe this woman just has bad luck where everyone, including her children and her prior husbands, wind up dead. Think about that there, Chad Daybell. Run like a hotel fire. And now what are you doing? You're spending your wife's insurance money on the woman that's brought you all this pain and trouble in your life so that she can get an attorney. I would be saying roll right now on her, save yourself, get out, and go be with your kids. That's what I would say. I don't know. You just can't make this stuff up. It just, let's see, Ellie. If you check for Chad, he's a scumbag as well. He was peddling crazy end of time stuff. Then his wife bites the big one and is suspicious. Just like other deaths, it won't go the murder route. I agree. There's not going to be any charges regarding the death of Tammy Daybell. Just like there aren't going to be any charges related to the death of Lori Vallow's previous husbands and even her brother. Nothing like that is going to take place unless, Chad Daybell has some information. And like we talked about earlier, right, you got defenses, you got mitigation. And then the thing they don't teach you in law school is leverage. Do you have some information that the prosecution wants, right? I mean, he could cut himself such a great deal if he had information regarding the deaths of everybody involved. Oh my goodness. He would be a star witness, and he could probably work something out where he basically gets out of jail free. Probably gets stuck with a felony, but he could do that. But what can we say? Alicia, laugh out loud. That's what we say in the pharmacy. What is that? Run like a hotel fire. Why is it okay for you to encourage people to phone a public official office and monopolize his office staff? Well, Marie, the reason why we can do that is because it's America. That's right. And the public officials should know if they have lost the trust and confidence of their constituents or other people that know about that as well. And so, yes, we gave Mayor Hancock's phone number out again. It's not like we gave his home phone number. We gave his office phone number. And guess what they did down there? They probably didn't answer the calls if it came in. Or they said, okay, thank you, have a nice day. We'll make sure the mayor know. Everyone should know if they feel that way. No one forced anybody to pick up the phone. And what did I specifically say? Be nice. We're not asking for any, threats or using foul language. We said be nice and tell them we think that you're a hypocrite and that you should probably resign. And we all know he won't. I mean, given Mayor Hancock's record, right? He's not going to do that. He's going to issue his I'm sorry apology. And it goes by poof, just like that. That's the way things work here in Denver. It's not like our news media is going to do anything for that. So, yes, Marie, that's why I think it's okay to encourage people to phone a public official and monopolize his office staff. And guess what? His office staff isn't even at the office. They're working from home, so it probably went straight to voicemail. Why is that? Because they're all quarantining, because they came in contact with the mayor, who a day before he left was in contact with the governor who got COVID, who was in the same room in close proximity to Mayor Hancock, who got on the plane the day before Thanksgiving, flew from Denver to Houston, Houston to Mississippi, had Thanksgiving with his family after he told people not to do the exact same thing, then flew back from Mississippi to Houston, Houston to Denver, where he said he's going to quarantine. No word as to whether he is tested positive or negative for the coronavirus. Just letting the people know what the politicians are doing out there. And I saw a story today, and I don't think I can pull it up. There was a mayor in a California town that told people you can't go see your parents if they're in a nursing home. Well, guess what he did? He went over to see his parents at the nursing home. Tell me why that is okay. Marie, tell me why that is okay. And if people don't report on that type of information and let it be known, they get away with it and they think they can do it over and over and over again. Bottom line, and I don't care what political party it's in. If you're a public official and you're engaging in hypocritical conduct, you need to be called out on it. Bottom line. Let's see here. Analyzing life. Colleen. Scott can confirm, but Chris Watts isn't getting a new trial. Okay, let's talk Chris Watts really quick. All right. Let me write here on this legal pad, because that's what lawyers like to carry around, is legal pads, so that everybody knows and thinks that they're lawyers. Okay? I'm writing here on my legal pad the chance that Chris Watts has at getting his plea withdrawn and getting a new trial. Okay, I'm going to hold it up. Maybe a show of hands. People can guess what percentage I think Chris Watts has of getting his plea withdrawn and getting a new trial and basically starting over again. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. That's right. 0% chance for Chris Watts to get a new trial. Let's be clear. Chris Watts pled guilty. He engaged in the colloquy with the judge as to why he wanted to plead guilty, because he was in fact guilty of the crimes to which he's pleading guilty to. I assure you, the court would not have accepted his guilty plea if he said, well, I'm not really sure I want to do this, or I really didn't do this, and I'm just pleading guilty to get it all over with. We're not talking about a traffic offense, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about multiple counts of first-degree murder. There's a reason why. There's a reason why the courts engage in that colloquy when somebody pleads guilty, to make sure they understand the charges, what they're pleading guilty to, the possible penalties, and they make sure they understand all of their constitutional rights and the rights that they're giving up when they plead guilty. Those constitutional rights are to challenge the evidence, to engage in motions practice, to have a jury trial, to make the prosecution prove each and every element of the offenses charged beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously to a jury of 12 people. And at a trial, the defendant would have a right to assist in the selection of the jury, would have a right to confront and cross-examine all witnesses and evidence brought to court via the prosecution, through their attorney, of course. At a trial, the defendant would have an absolute right to present a defense, although he doesn't have to, because the burden always remains with the prosecution to prove the case. The defendant doesn't have to prove anything. I assure you, more cases that I've won, the defense presents no evidence. Additionally, the court would then go on to further explain to the defendant, as Judge Kopkow did to Chris Watts, and says, at a trial, you have an absolute right to testify or not to testify. And if you chose not to testify, the jury would be instructed that they could not use your silence against you. And ultimately, if you went to trial and you lost, you'd have a right to appeal your case to a higher court to see if any legal errors were made that resulted in an unfair trial. Then the judge clearly explains to him, please understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up all of those rights. So there'll be no jury trial. There'll be no making the prosecution prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. There'll be no cross-examination of witnesses. There'll be no decision to testify whatsoever. And guess what? There will be no appeal. And Chris Watts stated, not only did he want to plead guilty, but he understood the rights he had, the rights he's giving up, and that there would be no appeals. It's done. It's over. It's over at that point. He stated that he was satisfied with his attorneys. He is not going anywhere. He could file a motion a day till the end of the days that he remains in custody. And let me tell you, let me show you. Like I'm a visual person. I like to be able to see it. So just like I wrote out the percentage that he had of getting a new hearing or trial. This is what all the motions are going to say for whatever he files. Denied. He's not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the way it is. If he thought that he was innocent, he should have gone to trial. And then if he was convicted, he could appeal. Then he can engage in post-conviction relief. Here, there is nothing to engage in because he gave up knowingly and voluntarily every right that he had. And therefore, he is not going to get a new trial. So analyzing life, I hope that feels satisfactory explanation that everyone should be assured Chris Watts is going nowhere. He can be up there is swapping out his underwear and petroleum jelly with as many people as he wants. He might as well get used to it. He might as well get comfortable because he's not going anywhere. Let's see. Chad was the one that said the JJ. Let me see here. Sometimes this jumps ahead here. Just trying to get... Okay, Chris Watts is trying to get off on technicality. He didn't get his rights, yada, yada, yada. Problem for Chris Watts is the DA lawyers crossed their T's and dotted their I's. No chance in hell. You're absolutely correct, Betty Smith. And hopefully my explanation added to that as well. Brandon, South Carolina execution. Is there one going on? I don't know. Who did not follow the case closely believe that he can get an appeal. He can't. There's nothing to appeal. He could file a motion to withdraw his guilty plea. It'll be denied without a hearing. He could appeal that, but it's not going anywhere. I'm telling you, it's not going anywhere. Okay? And let me tell you, there's a very unwritten rule in the law. It's called the son of a bitch rule. Okay? And even if your client has maybe a colorable claim when it comes to an error that was made, you have the son of a bitch rule. They kind of look at how bad it was and they say, gee, although there was maybe a little error here, we find that it was harmless in light of the overwhelming evidence of guilt, and that wouldn't made a difference at a new trial whatsoever. So, like I said, Chris Watts thought that he was verbally berated. He should have challenged that at the motions hearing, not adding on to the docket to enter a plea. And he had good attorneys. I'm telling you, he had the public defender's office. They were talking a death penalty case. He was not getting, he was getting above average attorneys, I assure you of that. And they would have had all the resources. He's the one that chose to plead guilty, just like he told the court. It's his decision. Bottom line, he's not going anywhere. So, people in the back, 0% chance, save our time and money. Thank you for making that clear, Scott. Did you hear that people in the back, 0% chance, save your time and money? Yes, save your time. And I will explain that to anybody. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm a criminal defense attorney. Even if Chris Watts' family or friends or somebody walked in here and said, here's $1 million. We want you to do what you can to get Chris Watts out of custody. And the first thing I would tell him is, I would love to take your $1 million. But let me tell you, I would have to tell you the percentage that I think the odds are that you would have to get, that he would have to get a new trial. That's right. Excuse me. 0%. I would tell that to people, even if they walked in with $1 million. And even if I advised them and said, I think you have 0% chance, if you still want me to go forward, maybe I'll do it. But I'm telling you, save your money. Put it away for your kids. Invest. Go invest in some real estate or something. I'll take your money, but I'm telling you up front, it's not going to be, you're not going to get a good outcome. Swedish sugar. I love to strut into that courtroom with my chest all pumped up as Peacock with Scott representing me. Well, nobody goes to court anymore. Nobody goes to court anymore. I was supposed to start a homicide trial next week. Well, guess what? The chief judge in that district canceled all of the trials until at least the first of the year. Well, guess what that problem is? I don't have any available dates, probably at least until June, because everything just keeps getting pushed out. And if we ever do have jury trials ever again, we will get there. And I can't imagine that after January 1st, somehow miraculously we're going to start jury trials. I bet we don't start jury trials again until maybe March or April is my guess. I've done 2 trials this year, both in federal court. One was pre-COVID, one was post-COVID. It went just fine. And maybe it went just fine because I won them both. You just never, maybe I'd feel differently if I had lost. Scott, did you ever pick out a dumb criminal of the week before you were sick? I thought we did, but maybe I'll have to ask Frank, the hardest working man in show business, if we did. I thought we did. We'll double check. We'll go back and watch that video real quick, see if we did. If not, we'll figure it out and let everybody know. Steph, to Scott, what's your take on Scott Peterson? The Scott Peterson case, I'm not sure what to make of it. Okay, the California Supreme Court vacated the death sentence based upon issues related to the jury selection of jurors. The issue at hand right now regarding the juror where she apparently basically tried to get onto the jury and she failed to disclose that she may have been involved in a very similar situation or some sort of domestic violence situation. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure where that could go. The judge could easily grant a new trial if he thought that it was going to be unfair. And regardless of whatever happens at the trial court, when they have a hearing on that, the loser is going to appeal that to the appellate courts and ultimately to the California Supreme Court. So it could be years. At this point, the state says we're going forward on resentencing for the death penalty. I just don't know. I don't know. Everything that comes out of California is always sometimes just a little weird. Now, obviously, we do not want to convict, let alone innocent people, but we certainly don't want to sentence people to death. And if we're going to do that, by God, we need to make sure that we have dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and given the man hyper due process. I mean, here we are, 16 years later, and we're still dealing with his case. It's the kind of thing, that's what happens when the government goes for, the death penalty. And here you got California. Do they even have the death penalty anymore? I think they've all but stopped it. There's a moratorium on it. So it makes me wonder, why are you even going there? But the prosecution has to go forward with that. But I don't know. So Scott Peterson is a weird case. We're going to be watching that. It's just, I don't know. It's a weird case. And obviously I don't practice in the state of California, but, everything in California just seems to be a little more unusual than it would be just about anywhere else. I don't know. They seem to come up with more ways to make the very simple complex. That's for sure. How did they just figure out that with this information regarding a jury a decade or so later? Lily Butler, my understanding was that she had written a book and there was further investigation. When you have a death penalty case, you get hyper due process, you get investigators, you go and re-investigate, re-interview all of these jurors. You're doing anything you can to save the client's life. And so, the truth will always come out, a pretty darn close version of it, in the adversarial process. So, the juror says, no, I didn't do anything unusual, even though she basically all but volunteered, but forgot to state that she was involved in a domestic violence situation. And I believe they weren't super similar, but it was more of a protection order type of situation, as I recall. And the juror says, oh, I just didn't remember. Now, come on, ladies and gentlemen. When the judge asks you, not only in a jury selection process, but a homicide, which is potentially a death penalty case, and the judge says, is there anyone who's been a victim of or in any kind of similar case, referring to a domestic violence case, since that's what this is, and you forget about it? I mean, I don't know this woman. I'm not trying to say maybe she truly just didn't think it was similar enough. But my experience is most jurors are overly cautious and abundantly clear with the information. Say, hey, judge, may not be clear, but out of abundance of caution, I just want to let you know about this situation. And the judge may say, all right, well, we may explore that a little later, or thank you for letting us know. We'll let the counsel talk about it. So I don't know. There's issues with that case from the beginning. Obviously at the time that he went to trial, it was headline stuff. If you got a trial today, I don't know. Would they be able to get a conviction? I don't know. I really just don't know. So hopefully that answers your question. Mary Frances Fleming, hello from France. You are a ton better than Law and Crime Network. Well, thank you. Who are so into politics, especially with the wife of the guy who did Epstein's autopsy. She is so into politics. Yeah, when the law, there should be no politics when it actually comes to the law. Yes, we get, we called out people, and I was told, oh my gosh, you're so against these people because all the people you called out were Democrats. No. We have called out many a Republican on this show. I don't care what political party people are from. Most of the Republicans get called out for corruption. What was it? The Ohio Speaker of the House that was having trouble finding an attorney not long ago, but he was involved in this huge scandal, federal charges for corruption and money laundering. Let's talk about that guy all day long. Geez. Okay, Yosemite Crime Detector is great for everyday citizens. Why would it matter if it was branded before? Scott's endorsement is powerful. Thank you very much. Listen, we try to, we don't pitch lots of stuff on here, but we try to do things in regards to what is going to be beneficial to our subscribers and our viewers. And is it going to be something related to, I get stuff all the time. The people say, hey, would you pitch this stuff? And we turn it down because it's not something that I think would be good necessarily for our subscribers. But it's just not what we're there for. Our stuff is more safety oriented to make sure our viewers, our subscribers are safe, so they can check things out. Why? Because I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney, man. I'm telling you, if people knew all the crime that went on out there, they would lock themselves in their house at night, curl up in the fetal position with a firearm, if they actually knew. And I'm trying to help people prevent them from becoming victims. And the way you do that is information. Information is power. So, all right. Can you believe we've already gone over an hour tonight? Man, that went by fast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening for our live. I appreciate that. Looks like we got 752 people at any given time. Thank you for tuning in tonight. That's greatly appreciated. We know there's lots of things that you could do in your busy schedules. We know there's lots of channels out there that you could watch, not only here on YouTube, but elsewhere. So the fact that you take the time to listen to us does not go unnoticed, and it is very much appreciated. So thank you for watching our Crime Talk Live. We'll go to our Patreon Live here in just a few minutes. Continue the conversation. We'll give you the phone number, and so make sure you're signed up so you can get that link tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you tomorrow on Crime Talk.